When most people think of ancient civilizations in North America, their minds drift toward pyramids in distant jungles or burial mounds scattered across river valleys. But hidden in the high desert of the American Southwest, carved into canyon walls and rising from sun-baked plateaus, exists a civilization so ancient, so sophisticated, so deeply connected to the rhythms of earth and sky, that it challenges everything we think we know about the indigenous peoples of this continent, the Pueblo peoples. For over 1,000 years, these cultures have maintained one of the longest continuous traditions on the North American continent. Yet here's what most people get wrong. They weren't primitive cliff dwellers waiting for European civilization to arrive. They were astronomers who tracked celestial movements with stunning precision. They were architects who designed multi-story buildings that still stand today. They were agricultural innovators who coaxed life from the desert using water management systems that modern engineers study with reverence. But here's what most people don't realize about this culture. Their greatest achievement wasn't technological. It was spiritual. The Pueblo peoples created something far more enduring than stone structures. They developed a worldview so profoundly balanced, so intricately woven into the fabric of nature itself, that it sustained communities through droughts, invasions, and centuries of upheaval. At the heart of this worldview lies a trinity of sacred elements: the corn that feeds the body, the clouds that bring life-giving rain, and the clans that maintain cosmic harmony. Picture this: the year is 1050 CE. In a canyon that will one day be called Chaco, a city rises from the desert floor. Not a city by accident, but one designed as a living temple, its walls aligned with the solstices, its great kivas serving as portals between worlds. Here, the boundary between the physical and spiritual dissolves like morning mist. Here, every action carries ceremonial weight. Here, people don't simply live on the land, they dance with it, pray with it, breathe with it. But here's what makes the Pueblo story so extraordinary: they're still here. While countless civilizations have crumbled into archaeology, the Pueblo peoples continue to practice ceremonies that echo through millennia. In 19 living pueblos scattered across New Mexico and Arizona, from Taos in the north to Hopi in the west, ancient songs still rise in sacred chambers. The same corn varieties cultivated by ancestors still push through the soil. The same Kachina spirits still descend from the clouds during ceremonial dances. This isn't a story about a lost civilization. It's a story about endurance, adaptation, and the power of maintaining sacred balance in an ever-changing world. Why does this matter now, in our modern world of climate crisis, social fragmentation, and spiritual disconnection? Because hidden within Pueblo wisdom lies something our contemporary world desperately needs: a map for living in reciprocal relationship with the natural world. Not dominating it, not even just protecting it, but participating in it as conscious partners in a cosmic dance. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to journey deep into the Pueblo worldview. We'll descend into the underworld emergence stories that explain how humanity came to walk upon this earth. We'll learn why corn is not merely a crop, but a sacred relative. Why clouds are not simply weather patterns, but the visible breath of ancestors. And why clans are not just family groups, but cosmic organizing principles that maintain universal balance. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all: that we are not separate from nature, analyzing it from the outside, but integral threads in a vast, living tapestry. The Pueblo peoples understood something that modern science is only beginning to rediscover: that everything is connected, that reciprocity is the fundamental law of existence, and that spiritual practice is not escape from the world, but deeper engagement with it. What I find most powerful about this story is how it invites us to reconsider our most basic assumptions. We've been taught that progress means increasing control over nature. The Pueblo peoples offer a different vision: that wisdom means increasing harmony with nature. We've been taught that religion means beliefs held in the mind. The Pueblo tradition shows us that spirituality means relationships enacted through the body, through ceremony, through the daily rituals of planting and harvesting and prayer. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why the Pueblo peoples have survived when so many other civilizations have vanished. You'll discover how their stories encode practical wisdom about agriculture, community organization, and ecological balance. And perhaps most importantly, you'll glimpse a different way of being human, one that our world urgently needs to remember. But to understand the Pueblo peoples, we must first travel back to the beginning. Not just the beginning of their history, but the beginning of all things. We must descend into the underworld, into the darkness before emergence, into the sacred origin stories that shape everything that follows. Are you ready to journey into the depths? To understand this culture's history, landscape, beliefs, and connection to nature, we must journey back to a time before time, to a place beneath place. In the beginning, say the Pueblo peoples, humanity did not live upon the earth's surface. We dwelled in darkness, in the womb worlds beneath. The emergent story, told with beautiful variations across different Pueblo communities, describes how humanity ascended through multiple underworlds before reaching this present world. The Hopi speak of 4 worlds. The Zuni describe 4 or sometimes 7 cave wombs. The Tewa tell of 4 underground levels, each representing a stage of development, each requiring growth before ascension to the next. Picture this. In the first world, humans were not yet fully formed. We were more like insects, crawling in primordial darkness, without sun, without moon, without the clear light of consciousness. The world was damp, crowded, filled with creatures living in confusion. But within this darkness, there was safety. There was the comfort of enclosure. There was no suffering, because there were no choices, no challenges, no growth. But the sacred beings, the spirit guides who would become the Kachinas, knew that humanity could not remain in this primitive state. They planted a seed deep in human consciousness, the longing for light. To understand this belief, we must recognize that the Pueblo peoples are the descendants of the ancient Puebloans, sometimes called the Anasazi, though this term is falling out of use because it means ancient enemy in Navajo. These ancestors built the magnificent structures at Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and countless other sites across the Four Corners region. Archaeological evidence shows continuous occupation of the Southwest for over 12,000 years. But the distinctive Pueblo culture emerged around 750 CE, characterized by above-ground stone and adobe structures, sophisticated pottery, and the emergence of the kiva, the sacred underground chamber that literally represents the sipapu, the hole through which humanity emerged from the underworld. In the emergent story, 2 warrior gods, often called the twins in many Pueblo traditions, were sent by their mother, the Corn Mother, to lead humanity upward. They carried sacred items, a stone knife to cut through obstacles, seeds for the future planting, and most importantly, songs and prayers that could open the way. The first ascent was difficult. Humanity climbed through darkness, guided only by faith and the distant promise of something better above. When they emerged into the second world, there was dim light, like perpetual twilight. Here, humans learned to stand upright. They developed speech. They began to form communities. But this world too became crowded, chaotic, filled with conflict. Again, the twin warriors appeared. Again, they planted a sacred tree, in some versions, a bamboo, in others, a pine or spruce, that grew through the ceiling of that world into the one above. Those who were ready, those who had learned the lessons of cooperation and respect, climbed upward. But here's what most people don't realize about this journey. It wasn't just physical. Each world represented a stage of spiritual and social development. The first world, basic survival and instinct. The second world, the beginning of language and culture. The third world, the development of ceremony and agriculture. Only those who had mastered the lessons of each level could ascend to the next. This is not a story about divine intervention rescuing passive humanity. This is a story about evolution through effort, about earning your ascension through growth, about the fundamental Pueblo principle that advancement comes through both personal development and communal cooperation. In the Third World, humanity learned to plant crops. The Corn Mother herself descended to teach the people how to cultivate maize, how to grind it, how to transform seed into sustenance. Here, the first clans formed, not just random family groups, but sacred organizations aligned with natural elements. The Corn Clan, the Cloud Clan, the Snake Clan, the Bear Clan, each with specific ceremonial responsibilities. But even this world had its challenges. Wickedness and sorcery crept in. Some people forgot the sacred ways. They began to fight over resources, to practice black magic, to disrupt the cosmic balance. The earth itself groaned under the weight of this disharmony. The twin warriors appeared one final time. They planted a reed that grew tall, 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 piercing through the ceiling of the Third World into the Fourth World, this present world, the world of complete light, the world where we now dwell. But not everyone could make this final ascent. Only those who had maintained the sacred ways, only those who carried respect for the natural order, only those who understood the principles of reciprocity and balance were allowed to climb. They emerged, and accounts vary on exactly where, but most traditions point to a specific geographical location. The Hopi say they emerged at the Grand Canyon, at a sacred site called Sipapu. The Zuni identify their emergence place as a location in western New Mexico. The Tiwa point to specific sacred mountains in northern New Mexico. Picture this moment. After lifetimes of climbing through darkness and dim twilight, humanity steps out into blinding sunlight for the first time. They stand on the edge of a canyon or beside a sacred lake. The sky extends infinitely above, brilliant blue, filled with clouds that drift like ancestral spirits. The earth spreads in all directions, red and golden mesas, green river valleys, mountains purple in the distance. Picture this, the ocean mist curling through cedar trees. But wait, there is no ocean here. This is the high desert where water is precious, where every river is sacred, where clouds are not mere weather but visible prayers. The mist here comes from morning fog settling into canyons, from rain evaporating before it reaches the ground, from the breath of the earth itself rising to meet the breath of sky. The first humans stood in this new world and wept. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming recognition of beauty, of possibility, of responsibility. For with emergence into the light comes obligation. The sacred beings gave humanity clear instructions. You must maintain balance. You must perform the ceremonies. You must respect all living things as relatives. You must never forget that you came from darkness, and that only through constant vigilance, prayer, and reciprocity can you remain in the light. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that consciousness itself is an emergence from darkness into light. That becoming fully human is not automatic, but requires effort, learning, and spiritual development. That we are not given our place in the light. We must earn it through right living, through respect for sacred laws, through maintaining our part in the cosmic balance. The Pueblo emergence story is not mythology in the sense of false stories. It is mythology in the deeper sense, sacred narrative that encodes profound truths about human nature, social organization, and our relationship to the natural world. Now let's ground ourselves in the physical landscape where this spiritual geography took root. The Pueblo peoples inhabit one of the most striking and challenging environments on Earth, the high desert plateau of the American Southwest. This is a land of extremes. Summer temperatures soar above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter nights plunge below freezing. Annual rainfall in many areas averages less than 12 inches. The growing season is short, the altitude high, often 5,000 to 7,000 feet above sea level. By all conventional measures, this should not be a place where great civilizations flourish. Yet here, human communities have thrived continuously for over a millennium. How? By developing an intimate, almost cellular understanding of the land, by reading patterns in cloud formations, by knowing exactly which arroyos would flash flood during monsoons and which would remain dry, by identifying every seep and spring across hundreds of square miles, by developing crop varieties, particularly corn, adapted to high altitude, short growing seasons, and minimal water. To understand this achievement, we must recognize the agricultural innovation at work here. Modern corn, the corn that feeds much of the world, descended from a wild grass called teosinte that bore tiny ears with maybe 5 kernels. Through thousands of years of careful selection and cultivation, indigenous peoples of the Americas transformed this unpromising plant into the most productive cereal crop on Earth. The Pueblo peoples developed varieties specifically adapted to desert conditions: blue corn, white corn, red corn, yellow corn, and speckled corn. Each variety had specific properties. Some were drought-resistant, some matured quickly, some stored well through winter, some were particularly sacred, used only in ceremony. The landscape itself was their temple. Every mesa, every canyon, every spring had spiritual significance. The Hopi villages, perched on high mesas rising from the desert floor, were positioned not just for defense, but for ceremonial alignment. First mesa, second mesa, third mesa. Each had specific clans, specific ceremonial responsibilities, specific relationships to the land. Picture the vista from Walpi, the ancient Hopi village that clings to the edge of First Mesa. On all sides, the land drops away dramatically. You can see for 50 miles in every direction. To the east, the sacred mountains where the Kachinas dwell. To the west, the desert stretching toward California. Below, the patchwork of cornfields in the valley, green against the red-gold earth. Above, the vast dome of sky, always filled with the spectacle of cloud formations. But here's what most people don't realize about these seemingly isolated pueblos. They were part of vast trade networks stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Great Plains, from northern Mexico to what is now Colorado. Archaeologists have found Pacific seashells at inland pueblos, turquoise from southwestern mines in Mexican sites, macaw feathers from tropical regions in ceremonial sites at Chaco Canyon. These were not isolated villages, but nodes in a complex web of economic, social, and spiritual exchange. The Pueblo peoples traded not just goods, but ideas, ceremonies, clan relationships, and sacred knowledge. The landscape was alive, conscious, filled with presence. Springs were not just water sources, but sacred beings who required prayer and offerings. Mountains were not just geographical features, but actual persons. Homes of the Kachinas, access points connecting earth and sky. The sipapu, that hole in the floor of every kiva, was not symbolic but literal, an actual opening to the underworld from which humanity had emerged. Picture this: evening descending on a pueblo in summer. The sun, enormous and orange, settles behind western mesas, painting the adobe walls with fire. Smoke rises from evening cooking fires. Children play in the plaza while elders sit in doorways. In the distance, thunder rumbles. Clouds build on the horizon, towering cumulus, dark at the base, brilliant white at the peaks. Everyone pauses. Everyone looks. Everyone offers a silent prayer. For those clouds are not random. They are the ancestors returning. They are the Kachinas manifesting. They are the visible evidence that the ceremonies have worked, that the prayers have been heard, that the cosmic balance holds. And soon, perhaps tonight, perhaps tomorrow, the rain will come. This is the world the Pueblo peoples built, a civilization based not on domination of nature, but on sophisticated partnership with it. A culture that achieved sustainability not through technology alone, but through spiritual practices that enforced ecological wisdom. A society that maintained cohesion not through authoritarian power, but through complex systems of clan responsibilities, ceremonial obligations, and shared sacred purpose. As we complete this first chapter, consider this. The emergence story teaches that we are all on a journey from darkness into light, and that this journey never ends. Each generation must choose whether to honor the sacred ways or slip back into chaos. Each individual must decide whether to maintain balance or pursue selfish desires at the expense of communal harmony. The Pueblo peoples emerged into the Fourth World carrying sacred responsibilities. What responsibilities do we carry in our modern emergence into global awareness? What lessons of cooperation, respect, and reciprocity must we master to ascend to the next level of human consciousness? The answer, as we'll discover, lies in understanding the sacred trinity at the heart of Pueblo life: the corn that feeds us, the clouds that sustain us, and the clans that organize us into cosmic harmony. If you ask a Pueblo person what is most sacred, many would answer simply, corn. But this answer would be incomprehensible to most modern people who see corn as merely another commodity crop, measured in bushels and market prices. To the Pueblo peoples, corn is not a thing. Corn is a person. Corn is a mother. Corn is, in the most literal sense, a deity who sacrifices herself to feed her children. Let me tell you the story of the Corn Mother, as told in various forms across Pueblo communities. In the beginning, after emergence, humanity was hungry. The twin warriors who had led the people upward knew how to hunt, how to gather wild plants, but this was not enough to sustain permanent communities. So they prayed to the spirit world for help. She came in the form of a beautiful woman dressed in white, carrying an ear of corn in her arms like an infant. Her name was Iyatiku, or Corn Mother, or in some traditions, Yellow Woman. She spoke to the people. "I am your mother. From my body I will feed you, but you must treat me with respect. You must plant me properly. You must sing to me. You must pray for me. And most importantly, you must never take more than you need. Never waste what I give you. Never forget that I am giving you my very flesh, so that you might live." But here's what most people don't realize about corn cultivation in Pueblo culture. It is not agriculture as we understand it. It is a form of prayer. Every stage of the corn's life cycle is accompanied by ceremony, from the blessing of seeds before planting to the harvest dances in autumn. Picture this. In early spring, when the earth begins to warm, the men of the Pueblo gather in the kiva for the seed blessing ceremony. Each family has brought their precious seed corn, stored carefully through winter, selected from the finest ears of last year's crop. These are not just seeds, they are living lineages, genetic lines maintained for centuries, adapted perfectly to local conditions. The medicine man, the cacique or spiritual leader, says prayers over the seeds. He makes sacred cornmeal, ground from white corn, and sprinkles it in 6 directions: north, south, east, west, zenith, and nadir. He invokes the cloud people. He calls to the Corn Mother herself. He asks that these seeds be given the strength to germinate, to push through the earth, to withstand wind and drought and hungry birds. Then the planting begins. But this is not mechanical sowing in straight rows. The men walk to their fields in the valley below the Pueblo, singing planting songs passed down through generations. They dig holes deep into the earth, deeper than modern farmers would consider practical, and place multiple seeds together, creating a community of plants that will support each other. The corn's growth mirrors the 4 worlds of human emergence. Understanding this parallel reveals the depth of Pueblo symbolic thought. The planted seed rests in darkness, in the earth's womb, just as humanity once dwelt in the first underworld. Here, the seed must trust. It cannot see the sun. It cannot know if water will come. It must have faith that the sacred balance holds, that the ceremonies have worked, that the clouds will gather. This stage teaches patience, surrender, and trust in the cosmic order. When the sprout pushes through the soil surface, it emerges into light, just as humanity emerged from the 3rd world into the 4th. This is a moment of celebration, but also of vulnerability. The tender shoot can be destroyed by late frost, by hungry insects, by a sandstorm. The people must protect it. They must thin the plants, selecting the strongest. They must weed carefully, ensuring the corn is not crowded out by wild plants. This stage teaches the importance of community support, of creating conditions for growth, of removing obstacles while the young are finding their strength. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that growth requires both protection and challenge. The Pueblo farmers don't overwater their corn, creating dependency. They allow the plants to develop deep root systems, searching for moisture far below the surface. This produces drought-resistant corn, but also symbolizes how humans grow strongest when we must reach deep within ourselves for sustenance. As summer intensifies, the corn matures. Tassels emerge at the top of each plant, the male flowers releasing pollen. Below, the ears form with their silk strands, the female parts waiting to receive. The wind carries pollen from plant to plant, an invisible act of fertilization, an aerial dance of reproduction. This stage is considered deeply sacred because it represents the marriage of earth and sky. The corn, rooted in earth, reaches upward. The pollen, riding the wind, descends from above. The resulting ear of corn is literally the child of this union, embodying the principle that all life emerges from the proper relationship between earth and sky, female and male, receptive and generative. By late summer, the ears swell with kernels. The tassels turn brown. The leaves begin to dry. The corn is nearly ready. But even now, even after months of growth, the people must be vigilant. They must watch for raccoons and deer. They must check for corn earworm. They must judge the exact right moment for harvest. Not too early when the kernels are still soft. Not too late when frost might destroy everything. When the harvest comes, it is not extractive, but reciprocal. As the corn is gathered, prayers of thanksgiving are offered. Cornmeal is scattered on the ground, feeding back to the earth what was taken. The finest ears are saved for seed, ensuring the lineage continues. The stalks are not burned but used, woven into mats, used as animal fodder, returned to the soil as mulch. What I find most powerful about this relationship is how it inverts modern assumptions. We think of agriculture as humanity controlling nature. The Pueblo peoples see it as humanity participating in nature, as junior partners in a process guided by sacred beings. The corn does not belong to humans. Humans belong to the corn. We are the corn's way of reproducing itself, of ensuring its lineage, of participating in the cosmic cycle. Now we come to the clouds, the second element in our sacred trinity. For in the desert, nothing matters more than rain. Civilizations rise and fall based on water. The great Chaco civilization collapsed during a prolonged drought. The abandonment of Mesa Verde coincided with decades of failed monsoons. Water is not just important, it is literally the difference between life and death. But to the Pueblo peoples, rain is not random. Rain is the answer to prayer. Rain is the physical manifestation of proper ceremony. Rain is the cloud people, the ancestors who have died and become clouds, returning to nourish their descendants. Let me explain the Pueblo understanding of the water cycle, which is simultaneously practical meteorology and profound spiritual teaching. When a person dies, their spirit travels to the sacred mountains or to special places in the clouds. There, they join the cloud people. From this vantage point, they watch over their living relatives. They see when the corn is planted. They observe whether the ceremonies are performed correctly. They witness whether the people are maintaining balance and respect. If the ceremonies are proper, if the prayers are sincere, if the people are living in harmony, then the cloud people respond. They gather themselves into visible form, the towering cumulus clouds that build over the mountains every summer afternoon. They drift toward the pueblos. They release their moisture as rain. To understand this belief, we must recognize the actual meteorological patterns of the region. The Southwest experiences a monsoon season from July through September. During this period, the jet stream shifts north, allowing moist air from the Gulf of Mexico to flow into the region. The intense summer heat creates powerful updrafts. As moist air rises, it cools, and the water vapor condenses into clouds. From a scientific perspective, this is simple physics. But from a Pueblo perspective, this is the mechanism by which prayers become rain. The heat rising from ceremony-warmed earth literally draws the clouds. The cycle is both physical and spiritual, both mechanical and sacred. There is no contradiction. Picture this. It is mid-July in a Hopi village. For weeks, the sky has been cloudless, burning blue. The corn is beginning to wilt. The springs are running low. Anxiety builds in the community. The Kiva chief declares that the rain dance will be performed. For 4 days, the dancers prepare. They fast. They pray. They paint their bodies with sacred designs. They prepare the prayer sticks, pajos, decorated with feathers and cornmeal, each one a concentrated prayer for rain. On the 5th day, the ceremony begins. The dancers emerge from the kiva wearing elaborate costumes representing the Kachinas, the spirit beings who mediate between humans and the natural world. Their bodies are painted in geometric patterns. They wear tall headdresses decorated with evergreen boughs. They carry rattles and evergreen wands. They move in precise, rhythmic patterns, their feet striking the earth in unison, their voices rising in ancient songs. The Kachinas are perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of Pueblo religion. Outsiders often call them gods or deities, but this misses the mark. Kachinas are more like sacred intermediaries, like angels in Christian thought, but more diverse, more specific, more tied to particular natural forces and locations. There are hundreds of different Kachinas. Some represent clouds and rain, some embody corn and fertility, some are associated with animals: the eagle Kachina, the deer Kachina, the snake Kachina. Some represent ancestors. Some embody moral teachings, appearing as clowns or disciplinarians. Some are tied to specific directions, colors, mountains, or seasons. But here's what most people don't realize about the Kachinas. They are not believed to be permanently present in the human world. For half the year, from summer solstice to winter solstice, the Kachinas dwell in their sacred homes in the mountains or in the underworld. During this time, they are present only in spirit, invoked through prayer. But from winter solstice to summer solstice, the Kachinas physically return. They enter the pueblo. They dance in the plazas. They visit homes. They bring gifts to children. They carry prayers to the cloud people. Except, and this is crucial, the Kachinas do not literally walk into the pueblo. Instead, men from the community are initiated into Kachina societies. Through ritual preparation, through wearing sacred masks and costumes, through proper prayer and fasting, these men become vessels for the Kachina spirits. When a man dons the mask of a particular Kachina, he ceases to be himself. His individual personality is subsumed. The Kachina spirit literally inhabits his body, looks through his eyes, speaks through his mouth, dances through his limbs. This is not pretend. This is not merely symbolic. From a Pueblo perspective, this is actual transformation. The person under the mask has temporarily become a sacred being, channeling divine power into the physical world. Picture a winter ceremony. Snow covers the ground. The air is sharp with cold. In the kiva below ground, men have been preparing for days. They have painted their bodies. They have fasted to purify themselves. They have prayed for strength to bear the sacred responsibility. Now they emerge, climbing the kiva ladder into the plaza. They are no longer men. They are Kachinas. Children watch in awe and some fear. These beings are powerful, unpredictable, demanding. They carry whips made of yucca leaves to discipline those who misbehave. They bring toy bows and Kachina dolls as gifts for children who have been good. The dance begins. The Kachinas move as one, their movements simultaneously precise and otherworldly. Their songs, in sacred language not used in everyday speech, rise and fall. The community watches, prays, participates through their attention and intention. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that transformation requires sacrifice of individual ego. To become something greater, to channel divine power, to participate in cosmic balance, we must be willing to set aside our personal identity and serve something larger than ourselves. The Kachina dancer does not seek glory or recognition. His face is hidden. His identity is erased. He endures physical hardship, dancing for hours in heavy costume, often in extreme heat or cold, not for personal benefit, but for the community. He becomes a living prayer, a bridge between worlds, a physical embodiment of the principle that the sacred and mundane interpenetrate. As this second chapter closes, we begin to see how deeply integrated these elements are. The corn grows because the clouds bring rain. The clouds gather because the Kachinas are honored. The Kachinas respond because the people maintain the ceremonies. The ceremonies continue because the people remember that they emerged from darkness and must work constantly to maintain their place in the light. Everything is connected. Everything is reciprocal. Everything depends on everything else. But there is still a crucial element we must understand to complete this picture: the clans. For the Pueblo peoples don't just have families, they have a cosmic organizational system that assigns every person specific ceremonial responsibilities, that ensures every necessary prayer is offered, that maintains balance through distributed obligation. In most modern societies, we organize ourselves by family, ethnicity, nationality, or profession. The Pueblo peoples add another layer: the clan. And this is not a social convenience, but a sacred responsibility, a cosmic assignment, a role in maintaining universal balance. Clan membership is matrilineal, inherited through the mother. When you are born, you belong to your mother's clan. This never changes. You might marry someone from a different clan, but you remain a member of your birth clan until death and beyond. In fact, the clan continues even after death, as ancestors remain active members of their clans, transformed into cloud people who continue to fulfill clan responsibilities from the spirit realm. Different pueblos have different numbers of clans. The Hopi have over 30 clans. Other pueblos might have fewer. But across all Pueblo communities, the principle remains the same. Each clan has specific ceremonial responsibilities essential to maintaining cosmic balance. Let me describe some of the major clans and their sacred duties. The Corn Clan, responsible for agricultural ceremonies, for blessing the seeds, for praying for successful harvest. Members of this clan are often the primary farmers, the keepers of special corn varieties, the ones who ensure that the sacred relationship between humans and corn is properly maintained. But here's what most people don't realize about clan responsibilities: they are not optional. If you are born into the Corn Clan, you don't get to decide you're more interested in warfare or pottery. You have a cosmic assignment. Your prayers and ceremonies are necessary for the corn to grow, for the community to eat, for life to continue. Individual preference is subordinate to cosmic necessity. The Cloud Clan, tasked with bringing rain, with maintaining relationships with the cloud people, with performing rain ceremonies and creating prayer sticks that call the ancestors to gather as clouds and release their moisture. The Bear Clan, often associated with healing and medicine. The bear, who sleeps through winter and emerges renewed in spring, represents the power of regeneration and recovery. Bear Clan members frequently become medicine men and women, learning the properties of plants, the healing songs, the ceremonies that restore balance when someone becomes ill. The Snake Clan, connected to water sources, springs, and underground streams. Snakes who live in the earth, who shed their skin and are renewed, represent the hidden connections beneath the surface. Snake Clan members are often responsible for maintaining springs, for ensuring water sources are kept clean and sacred, for performing ceremonies that keep the underground waters flowing. The Badger Clan, associated with the underground, with the Kivas, with maintaining the sacred connection to the underworld from which humanity emerged. Badgers are powerful diggers, able to move through the earth. Badger clan members often become kiva keepers, responsible for the sacred underground chambers where men gather for ceremony. To understand how the clan system functioned at its most sophisticated level, we must journey to Chaco Canyon in northwestern New Mexico, the site of perhaps the most extraordinary achievement in Pueblo history. Between 850 and 1150 CE, Chaco Canyon was the ceremonial and political heart of a vast region. Here, in a remote canyon far from major water sources, the ancient Puebloans built something unprecedented: a planned urban center featuring massive great houses, some rising 4 or 5 stories containing hundreds of rooms. Picture this. Pueblo Bonito, the largest of Chaco's great houses, contained over 600 rooms and rose to 5 stories in some sections. Its walls were constructed from precisely cut sandstone, fitted together with such skill that many walls still stand nearly 1,000 years later. The entire structure was laid out in a D-shaped pattern, aligned with solar and lunar cycles. At the center, enormous kivas, some 60 feet in diameter, descending deep into the earth. But here's what makes Chaco extraordinary. It wasn't primarily residential. Most of those 600 rooms were not living spaces but storage chambers, ceremonial rooms, and spaces for visiting pilgrims. Chaco was a pilgrimage center, a ceremonial hub, a place where clans from across the entire region gathered for coordinated rituals. To understand this achievement, we must grasp the logistics involved. The great houses were built from over 200,000 trees, primarily ponderosa pine and spruce, that had to be carried from mountains 50 miles away. There were no horses, no wheels, no draft animals. Every timber was carried on human shoulders, a collective effort involving thousands of people over generations. Why? Why invest such enormous labor in a ceremonial center rather than in practical irrigation systems or defensive fortifications? Because the Pueblo peoples understood something profound. The ceremonies are practical. Maintaining cosmic balance through properly coordinated ritual is not spiritual indulgence, but essential infrastructure. If the ceremonies fail, the rain fails. If the rain fails, the corn fails. If the corn fails, civilization collapses. Chaco was designed as a cosmic machine, a place where clans from different pueblos could coordinate their ceremonial calendars, ensuring that no essential prayer was missed, that every necessary ritual was performed at the proper time, that the sacred balance was maintained through distributed responsibility. Radiating out from Chaco like the spokes of a wheel, ancient roads stretched across the desert. These were not simple trails, but engineered roadways, up to 30 feet wide, cleared of vegetation, sometimes bordered by low walls or berms. They ran perfectly straight, ignoring topography, cutting over mesas rather than going around, maintaining their bearing with uncanny precision. Over 400 miles of these roads have been documented, connecting Chaco to outlying great houses across a region larger than Ireland. But here's the mystery. These roads were not for trade. There's no evidence of wheeled vehicles or pack animals. Why build massive highways for people traveling on foot? What I find most powerful about these roads is what they represent. Visible connections between communities, physical manifestations of the principle that isolated pueblos are actually nodes in a vast network, that ceremonies performed in one location support and amplify ceremonies in another, that cosmic balance requires coordination across distance. The roads were pilgrimage routes. During key ceremonial periods, solstices, equinoxes, major clan celebrations, people would walk these roads, converging on Chaco from all directions, carrying offerings, participating in coordinated rituals that synchronize the entire region. Imagine the scene. It is June, approaching summer solstice. From the north, south, east, and west, groups of pilgrims walk the ancient roads toward Chaco. They carry pottery vessels filled with sacred water from their home springs. They bring specially prepared foods. They wear their finest jewelry, turquoise and shell beads, earrings hammered from copper. They have painted their faces with clan designs. As they near Chaco, the groups merge. Hundreds of people, eventually thousands, fill the canyon. By day, they perform ceremonies in the Great Kivas, each clan fulfilling its specific responsibilities in the proper sequence. The Corn Clan blesses the growing crops. The Cloud Clan performs rain ceremonies. The Bear Clan offers healing prayers. Every prayer, every song, every ritual movement has been passed down through generations, perfected through centuries of practice. By night, the plazas fill with social celebration. Young people from different pueblos meet, forming relationships that will bind communities together. Elders exchange knowledge about plant varieties, water management techniques, astronomical observations. Traders offer goods from distant regions. Stories are shared, songs are taught. The entire network renews itself. But here's what most people don't realize about Chaco's decline. It wasn't conquest or catastrophe, but climate change and a fundamental challenge to the clan system itself. Beginning around 1130 CE, a severe drought gripped the region. For decades, the monsoons failed. The corn withered. The springs went dry. In such conditions, the ceremonies should have worked. The prayers should have brought rain. The Kachinas should have responded. But they didn't. And this created a crisis not just of resources, but of faith. If the ceremonies don't work, if maintaining cosmic balance doesn't produce rain, then what is the point of the entire system? Some groups abandoned Chaco, moving to regions with more reliable water sources. Some headed north to the Rio Grande Valley. Some went west to the Hopi mesas. Some moved south to the Zuni region. The great houses were gradually abandoned, left to the wind and silence. But here's the crucial point. The Pueblo peoples didn't abandon their beliefs. They adapted them. They carried their clan systems, their ceremonies, their sacred relationships with corn, clouds, and Kachinas to new locations. They maintained the core principles while adjusting to new circumstances. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that sustainability requires not rigid adherence to tradition, but wisdom to distinguish between core principles and specific practices. The Pueblo peoples understood that the sacred balance must be maintained, but that the exact methods might need to evolve as conditions change. Chaco fell, but the clan system survived. The great houses crumbled, but the ceremonies continued. The physical center disappeared, but the spiritual network remained intact, distributed across 19 pueblos that persist to this day. As we move into our final chapter, we'll discover how this ancient wisdom endured through centuries of upheaval, how it survived encounters with Spanish colonization, how it adapted to American rule, and how it continues to offer guidance for our modern world facing its own climate crisis, its own questions about sustainability, its own desperate need to rediscover balance. In 1540, Francisco Vázquez de Coronado led an expedition north from Mexico searching for the legendary 7 cities of gold. What he found instead were the Pueblo communities, not cities of gold, but villages of adobe and stone, not hoards of treasure, but stores of corn and dried meat. The Spanish were disappointed, but they returned. In 1598, Don Juan de Oñate established the first Spanish colony in New Mexico, claiming all Pueblo lands for Spain and all Pueblo souls for the Catholic Church. What followed was one of the darkest periods in Pueblo history. Spanish colonizers imposed a brutal regime. They demanded tribute, food, textiles, labor. They outlawed Pueblo religion, destroying kivas, burning sacred masks, executing religious leaders. They forced conversions to Catholicism. They established the encomienda system, essentially enslaving Pueblo people to work for Spanish landowners. But here's what the Spanish failed to understand. You cannot destroy a belief system that is woven into every aspect of daily life, encoded in agricultural practices, embedded in clan structure, passed down through ceremonial practice. The Pueblo peoples adapted a strategy of resistance through apparent compliance. To understand this period, we must recognize the sophisticated resistance strategy the Pueblo peoples employed. On the surface, they accepted Catholicism. They attended Mass. They built churches. They were baptized with Spanish names. But beneath this surface compliance, the traditional ceremonies continued in secret. The kivas were hidden or disguised. Sacred dances were performed at night, away from Spanish eyes. The Kachina masks were buried or hidden in remote locations. The clan responsibilities continued, passed from generation to generation through whispered teachings and covert ceremonies. This double life continued for 80 years, building tremendous pressure. The Spanish pushed harder, becoming more oppressive. A prolonged drought in the 1670s created additional stress. The Pueblo peoples were being crushed between ecological crisis and colonial violence. In 1680, something unprecedented occurred. The Pueblo peoples united in coordinated rebellion. This unity was itself extraordinary. The different Pueblo communities spoke different languages: Tewa, Tiwa, Towa, Keres, Zuni, Hopi. They had distinct traditions, sometimes competing interests, centuries of independent existence. Yet they managed to organize a synchronized uprising across hundreds of miles, involving dozens of communities, coordinated down to a specific day. The architect of this coordination was a San Juan Pueblo leader named Pope. He traveled secretly from Pueblo to Pueblo, building consensus, sharing a plan, invoking the traditional clan networks and ceremonial ties to create unprecedented unity. The signal for the revolt was simple: knotted yucca cord, with each knot representing a day until the uprising. Runners carried these cords to every pueblo. Each morning, one knot was untied. When the final knot was untied, the revolt began simultaneously across the entire region. Picture the morning of August 10, 1680. Across New Mexico, from Taos in the north to Isleta in the south, Pueblo warriors rose up. They attacked Spanish settlements, missions, and haciendas. They killed colonists and priests. Some 400 Spanish died in the initial uprising. The survivors fled south to El Paso, abandoning all of New Mexico. But here's what most people don't realize about the Pueblo Revolt. It wasn't primarily about political independence. It was about religious freedom. The first actions after the Spanish fled were not military consolidation or political reorganization, but ceremonial purification. The Pueblo peoples tore down churches, burning them to the ground. They washed away baptismal names, literally scrubbing themselves with yucca soap to remove the contamination of forced conversion. They brought the Kachina masks out of hiding, dancing openly for the first time in 80 years. They rebuilt kivas and resumed full ceremonial practice. For 12 years, New Mexico was free of Spanish rule. The Pueblo peoples restored their traditional ways, performed the full cycle of ceremonies, and experienced a renaissance of cultural practice. But in 1692, the Spanish returned under Diego de Vargas. They reconquered New Mexico, though with more difficulty than before. The Pueblo peoples, having tasted freedom, resisted fiercely. It took years of warfare before Spanish control was fully re-established. However, the reconquest was different from the original conquest. The Spanish had learned from their expulsion. They adopted a policy of greater tolerance, allowing limited continuation of Pueblo religious practices as long as Catholicism was also observed. The Pueblo peoples, having proven their capacity for unified resistance, negotiated a kind of cultural truce. What emerged was a unique synthesis, not a replacement of Pueblo religion with Catholicism, but a layering of both. Most Pueblo communities developed a dual religious practice that continues to this day. Picture a typical Pueblo today. There's a Catholic church at one end of the plaza, built from adobe, often beautiful in its simplicity. The Pueblo celebrates Catholic feast days: Christmas, Easter, the feast day of the Pueblo's patron saint. Baptisms, marriages, and funerals often include Catholic elements, but in the center of the plaza stands the kiva entrance. Below ground, the sacred chamber remains active. The clan chiefs still guide ceremonial practice. The Kachina dances still occur according to the ancient calendar. The prayer sticks are still made and planted. The corn is still blessed with cornmeal and traditional prayers. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all: that survival sometimes requires apparent compromise, but that core principles can be maintained even while surface practices adapt. The Pueblo peoples were not conquered spiritually, even when conquered politically. They preserved what mattered most by being flexible about what mattered less. Many Pueblo people today are sincerely both Catholic and traditional practitioners. They see no contradiction. They attend Mass and dance as Kachinas. They baptize their children in the church and then present them to the sun according to clan tradition. They pray to Catholic saints and to the cloud people. This is not hypocrisy or confusion, but sophisticated cultural navigation, a testament to the resilience and adaptability of Pueblo culture. The Pueblo peoples today face different but equally significant challenges. The 19 surviving Pueblos in New Mexico and Arizona are fully integrated into modern American society. Young people attend public schools, use smartphones, drive cars, attend universities. Many work in cities, returning to the Pueblo only for weekends or ceremonies. The external pressures are enormous. English increasingly replaces traditional languages as the primary tongue, especially among young people. Traditional crafts compete with wage labor and modern careers. The time-intensive requirements of ceremonial practice conflict with the demands of contemporary work schedules, yet the ceremonies continue. Every Pueblo maintains its kivas. The clan system persists. The Kachina dances still occur, though now often on weekends to accommodate modern work schedules. The traditional governance system, the cacique and war chief, the clan mothers and medicine societies, operates alongside federally recognized tribal councils and elected governors. What I find most powerful about this persistence is what it reveals about the durability of practices rooted in profound ecological and social wisdom. The ceremonies don't continue merely from habit or nostalgia. They continue because they work, not always in literal, immediate ways, but in maintaining social cohesion, in reinforcing cultural identity, in connecting people to land and to each other in ways that modern secular society struggles to replicate. The Pueblo peoples have maintained continuous occupation of their lands for over 1,000 years, through droughts, invasions, pandemics, colonization, and modernization. This is not accident or luck, but the result of a worldview that prioritizes long-term sustainability over short-term gain, that values social harmony over individual freedom, that sees ceremonial practice as essential infrastructure rather than optional spirituality. Before we conclude, it's crucial to address the question of cultural respect and appropriate engagement with Pueblo traditions. The Pueblo peoples have been studied, photographed, analyzed, and appropriated by outsiders for over a century. Anthropologists have published detailed descriptions of ceremonies meant to be private. Tourists have treated sacred dances as entertainment. New Age practitioners have borrowed Pueblo symbols without understanding or permission. In response, many Pueblos have established strict protocols. Some prohibit all photography and recording during ceremonies. Some limit when outsiders can visit. Some have closed certain ceremonies entirely to non-Pueblo observers. These restrictions are not hostile, but protective, an attempt to maintain the sacred integrity of practices that have been too often commodified, misunderstood, and disrespected. But here's what most people don't realize about Pueblo openness and closure. It's not about secrets in the Western sense. It's about recognizing that some knowledge is power, that ceremonial practices are efficacious precisely because they are handled with respect and restraint, that making something completely public often drains it of sacred force. Certain knowledge must be earned through initiation, through years of preparation, through demonstrated commitment and character. This is not elitism, but wisdom about how sacred power operates. You don't give nuclear codes to anyone who asks. The Pueblo peoples don't share all ceremonial knowledge with anyone who's curious. If you wish to learn more about Pueblo culture respectfully, here's guidance. Visit Pueblos during public feast days when outsiders are welcomed. Follow all posted rules about photography, appropriate clothing, and behavior. Don't ask intrusive questions about ceremonies or spiritual practices. Support Pueblo artists and craftspeople directly. Read books written by Pueblo authors themselves, not just about them. Understand that some things are not meant to be shared, and respect that boundary. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that not everything should be universally accessible, that some boundaries are healthy, that respecting limits is itself a spiritual practice. In a culture that treats all information as commodity, as something to be freely extracted and consumed, the Pueblo insistence on appropriate protocols offers a corrective vision. We stand now at a moment of profound crisis. The scientific consensus is clear. The climate is changing, driven by human activity, threatening the stability of ecological systems worldwide. Droughts intensify, weather patterns shift, traditional agricultural zones become unreliable, water sources diminish. The very balance between earth and sky, between human activity and natural systems, has been disrupted. This crisis is unprecedented in its global scale and human causation, but it is not unprecedented in kind. The Pueblo peoples have faced climate crisis repeatedly throughout their history. They know what it means to watch the skies for rain that doesn't come. They understand the terror of watching corn wither in the fields. They have experienced the social fracturing that occurs when fundamental systems fail. What kept them alive? What allowed them to survive and even flourish when so many other civilizations collapsed? Was their worldview. Not their technology, though they were innovative. Not their political power, though they sometimes achieved remarkable coordination. But their fundamental understanding that humans are not separate from nature, not controllers of nature, but participants in nature. Picture this: morning sunlight streaming through the clouds after a night of rain. The desert transformed, suddenly vibrant with color. Red earth darkened with moisture. Green plants emerging from soil that seemed lifeless hours before. The air itself different, cleansed, charged with possibility. And everywhere, the sound of water, dripping from roof edges, running in arroyos, soaking into parched ground. This is not just weather. This is prayer answered. This is cosmic balance momentarily restored. This is the visible evidence that relationship matters, that ceremony has power, that attention and respect generate response. Now translate this principle to our modern crisis. We have treated the atmosphere as a dumping ground, the oceans as infinite sinks for waste, the forests as resources to be extracted without reciprocity. We have violated every principle that the Pueblo peoples hold sacred. We have taken without giving back. We have ignored the signals of imbalance. We have prioritized short-term gain over long-term sustainability. The consequences are manifesting exactly as Pueblo wisdom would predict. The system is collapsing. The balance is broken. The rain doesn't come when expected. The seasons shift unpredictably. The corn doesn't grow as it should. What I find most powerful about the Pueblo response to climate crisis is that it's not primarily technological. Yes, they innovate, developing drought-resistant crops, sophisticated water management, strategic relocation. But the core response is spiritual. Perform the ceremonies more carefully. Maintain reciprocity more scrupulously. Examine where balance has been lost and restore it. Modern people tend to hear this and dismiss it as pre-scientific thinking. But is it? The Pueblo ceremonies enforce behavioral patterns that are ecologically sustainable. The prohibition against waste, the requirement to give back to the earth what you take, the emphasis on community needs over individual desires, the long-term thinking encoded in 7-generation planning, these are not superstition. These are survival strategies proven across centuries. At the absolute core of Pueblo philosophy lies a single principle: reciprocity. Everything operates on give and take. Nothing is free. Every gift requires a return gift. Every taking demands a giving back. This principle is woven into every ceremony. Before harvesting wild plants, you offer cornmeal to the earth. Before taking water from a spring, you leave a prayer stick. Before hunting, You ask permission and promise to use every part of the animal, wasting nothing. After harvest, you return stalks and husks to the soil, feeding next year's crop. But reciprocity extends beyond the physical. You don't just give things. You give attention, respect, relationship. The corn grows not merely because you plant it, but because you sing to it, because you pray for it, because you maintain proper ceremonial relationship. The rain comes not merely because atmospheric conditions permit, but because you have honored the cloud people, because you have danced the proper dances, because you have maintained your end of the cosmic bargain. This ancient idea reveals something timeless about us all, that we exist within a web of relationships, that autonomy is an illusion, that everything we receive comes from somewhere and generates obligations. The modern fantasy of pure individual independence, of taking without giving, of freedom without responsibility, is precisely the delusion that has led to ecological crisis. Consider how different our society would be if we truly operated on reciprocity. Corporations couldn't extract resources without equally returning value to the land and communities. Consumption would be balanced by contribution. Taking from future generations to benefit the present would be recognized as theft. The concept of waste would be impossible, because everything must feed back into the cycle. This isn't utopian fantasy. This is how the Pueblo peoples actually lived for centuries, achieving genuine sustainability not through scarcity or deprivation, but through reciprocal relationship. Another crucial lesson from Pueblo tradition: the sacred is not separate from the ordinary. There is no division between spiritual practice and daily life. Grinding corn is prayer. Weeding the garden is ceremony. Sharing food is sacred act. Maintaining your home contributes to cosmic balance. Modern people tend to compartmentalize religion into specific times and places: churches, temples, mosques, or perhaps personal meditation practice separated from the real activities of work and productivity. The Pueblo worldview rejects this division utterly. Every action either maintains balance or disrupts it. Every choice either honors reciprocity or violates it. Every moment offers opportunity for sacred practice or for negligence. You cannot be spiritual on Sunday and exploitative on Monday. You cannot pray for rain while polluting the watershed. You cannot claim to honor the earth while treating it as mere resource. But here's what most people don't realize about making the ordinary sacred. It's not about adding religious overlay to mundane activities. It's about recognizing the actual, physical, real connections already present. The corn you eat literally becomes your flesh. The water you drink literally becomes your blood. The air you breathe literally enters your cells. These are not metaphors. These are material facts that have spiritual implications. When you grind corn with awareness of this reality, when you acknowledge that this corn is the gift of the corn mother's sacrifice, when you handle it with respect and gratitude, you are not engaging in mysticism. You are being scientifically accurate about the real relationships that sustain your life. As we approach the end of this journey, I want to leave you with a final insight. The most radical thing about the Pueblo peoples is not their past, but their present. They are still here. The ceremonies still happen. The clans still function. The corn still grows. The prayers still rise. In a world of constant disruption, where change is celebrated as progress and tradition is often dismissed as obstacle, the Pueblo peoples offer a different vision. They show that it is possible to maintain core principles while adapting surface practices. They demonstrate that ancient wisdom and modern life are not necessarily contradictory. They prove that continuous cultural practice across more than 1,000 years is achievable. This continuity offers hope, not naive hope that ignores challenges, but grounded hope based on evidence. If the Pueblo peoples could survive droughts that lasted decades, colonial violence that attempted cultural genocide, forced assimilation programs, and the pressures of modernization, if they could survive all this while maintaining ceremonial practice and cultural integrity, then perhaps humanity as a whole can navigate our current crisis. But only if we learn the lessons they offer. Prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term gain. Maintain reciprocal relationship with the natural world. Distribute responsibilities across communities rather than concentrating power. Treat ceremonial practice as essential infrastructure, not optional spirituality. Make the sacred ordinary and the ordinary sacred. Remember that we emerged from darkness and must work constantly to maintain our place in the light. Picture this: summer evening in a Pueblo plaza. The sun sets behind western mesas, painting everything gold and purple. In the plaza, young people practice a dance, learning steps passed down through generations. Elders sit nearby, offering gentle corrections, sometimes rising to demonstrate proper form. Children watch, absorbing without formal instruction. From a nearby home, the smell of bread baking in an horno, the traditional outdoor oven. Above, the first stars emerging in darkening sky. This scene has repeated with minor variations for centuries. It will repeat again tomorrow, next month, next year. This is not stagnation. This is continuity. This is the deep time of cultural practice, the long rhythm of sustainable living, the patient unwinding of a tradition that measures success not in quarterly profits, but in 7 generations. We have journeyed from the underworld to the present moment, from emergence into light to contemporary survival. We have walked through the cornfields and watched the clouds gather. We have descended into kivas and stood in the plazas during ceremonies. We have witnessed collapse and renewal, crisis and adaptation, loss and persistence. The story of the Pueblo peoples is not complete. It continues in 19 living communities scattered across the Southwest. It continues in every child who learns a traditional language. It continues in every seed planted with prayer. It continues in every ceremony performed according to ancient pattern. It continues in every Kachina dancer who surrenders individual identity to channel sacred power. It continues in every elder who passes knowledge to the next generation. But the story extends beyond the Pueblo peoples themselves. Their wisdom is not their exclusive property, but a gift they offer to all humanity. If we have the humility to receive it, if we are willing to examine our own assumptions about progress and civilization, if we can set aside our arrogance and learn from those we once dismissed as primitive, what would it mean to truly embrace Pueblo wisdom in our own lives? Not to appropriate their specific practices. Those belong to them, earned through centuries of devotion and sacrifice. But to embrace the principles. Reciprocity. Before taking, ask what you will give back. Before consuming, consider what you will contribute. Before demanding rights, acknowledge responsibilities. Let every action be a fair exchange, maintaining balance rather than accumulating debt. Patience. The corn takes a full season to grow. Some ceremonies require years of preparation. Cultural change unfolds across generations. Resist the modern addiction to speed. Trust the slow unfolding of natural processes. Measure success in decades, not quarters. Community. No one clan can maintain cosmic balance alone. Each has specific responsibilities essential to the whole. Your gifts are needed. Your role is crucial. But so is everyone else's. Interdependence is not weakness but strength. Connection is not limitation but power. Humility. You did not create the corn or the clouds or the cosmic order. You are not the center of the universe but one participant in an unfathomably vast web of relationships. This recognition is not demeaning but liberating. It means you're not alone. It means you're supported. It means you're part of something immensely greater than yourself. Ceremony. Establish regular practices that connect you to what matters most. These need not be Pueblo ceremonies. Those belong to the Pueblo peoples. But create your own rituals that mark seasons, that honor relationships, that maintain attention to the sacred dimensions of ordinary life. Let these practices be physical, embodied, consistent. Long memory. Remember that you stand in a lineage. Ancestors made sacrifices so you could live. Your actions will echo through future generations. The choices you make today create the world your descendants will inherit. Think in 7-generation time. Let ancestors and descendants be present in your decisions. What I find most powerful as we conclude this journey is the recognition that the Pueblo peoples are not museum pieces, not relics of a vanished past, not casualties of history. They are living, adapting, continuing. Their mere persistence is a form of teaching. Their survival is itself a ceremony, an ongoing demonstration that another way is possible. In the 19 pueblos, the dance continues. The corn still grows in ancient fields. The clouds still gather over sacred mountains. The clans still maintain their responsibilities. The Kachinas still descend to dance in the plazas. The prayers still rise. The ceremonies still turn the wheel of the seasons. And in this continuity, in this patient unwinding of tradition, in this determination to maintain sacred balance despite everything that threatens it, lies hope. Not easy hope, not cheap optimism, but the hard-earned hope of a people who have faced catastrophe repeatedly and chosen each time to rebuild, to adapt, to continue, to dance. The Pueblo peoples emerged from darkness into light. They were given corn to sustain them, clouds to nourish the corn, and clans to organize their prayers. They were told that maintaining their place in the light would require constant work, endless ceremony, unwavering attention to balance. For more than 1,000 years, they have kept their end of the bargain. The ceremonies continue. The balance holds. The dance goes on. What will we do with this knowledge? How will we honor this gift of wisdom shared across cultural boundaries? What ceremonies will we create? What balance will we maintain? What long-term vision will guide our choices? The clouds gather. The rain will come or it won't. The corn will grow or it won't. These outcomes depend not just on atmospheric conditions, but on whether we, collectively, have learned what the Pueblo peoples have been teaching all along, that we are not separate from nature but part of it, that taking without giving back creates imbalance that eventually destroys the taker, that short-term thinking leads to long-term collapse, that ceremony is not escape from reality but deeper engagement with it, that the sacred pervades the ordinary, waiting only for recognition, that survival requires not just individual cleverness, but communal wisdom, not just technological innovation, but spiritual discipline, not just resource extraction, but reciprocal relationship. The Pueblo peoples are still here, still dancing, still praying, still maintaining the balance. In their persistence lies an invitation and a challenge. Will you join the dance? Will you learn the steps? Will you take up your part in maintaining the sacred balance upon which all life depends? The clouds are gathering. Listen, they are calling us home. Thank you for joining this journey through ancient spirit tales. May you walk in balance. May your prayers rise like corn pollen on the wind. May you always remember that you emerged from darkness and that staying in the light requires endless vigilance, constant ceremony, and profound respect for the sacred web that connects all things. The story continues. The dance goes on. The balance holds. For now.